Hi, and welcome to the Nottingham South Circuit Virtual Congregation for 2020. And thank you so much for joining in and recording some carols with us. This is a little video just to give you some tips and hints about how to film your videos. We don't expect everyone to film all of them, but it shouldn't take too long to do some of them or even most of them. So please do feel free to do as many as possible. So here are some things to think about when you're filming. Firstly, if you notice that I am looking not at myself in the screen, I'm looking directly into the camera. On all your devices, you'll have a little dot that has a camera somewhere here normally. On my computer, there's a little green light. As much as possible, if you're looking at the screen, if you could look at that camera and not yourself, it's very easy to focus on what you're looking like. And I didn't know I sung like that. But actually, when we're looking at ourselves, we tend to be looking down. So as much as possible, keep your shoulders back as if you were standing in church and singing, and look into this camera here. But that does mean you can't see yourself, which sometimes feels like a good thing. Secondly, think about lighting and where you're going to film. So we ask that people don't film outside as much as possible because there are lots of noises outside that we can't control. We might have people talking in their gardens. The wind is really hard to contend with because it muffles all the sound. You'll have potentially vehicles, sirens, any sort of noise actually will just affect the whole sound of it. So try and film inside. Think about your background. Make sure that if you don't want any pictures of family in the background, that you remove those or film somewhere else. You could film with a plain background, or you could film with just a normal part of your house. That's fine. But just think about what's in the background. And if you're happy with that. If I'm here, you can see that part of my house now has the staircase. So actually, if people are walking around in my house, you'll see them. So I might just move mine ever so slightly now, so you get me without potentially people walking past. The other thing to think about is noise. So try and turn off the heating temporarily if you've got that on, because that tends to make a noise as it sort of comes on and off. Same with hot water. So you don't want those noises really coming on in the background. Turn off. Make sure you do this when you've not got the washing machine or anything else going on in the background. Turn off fans or dehumidifiers and items like that while you're recording, just so that you've got a nice clear background in terms of sound, because what we want is to be able to hear your voice uninterrupted. Think about lighting. Lighting ideally will be in front of you and not behind you. And if possible, daylight. I'm recording this quite early in the morning and there's not a lot of daylight yet. So I'm using an artificial light. If you have a room which has kind of got a light but you get a lot of shadow, maybe move a lamp into the room behind where you're filming as well, so that you get lots of lovely light. As you see, the light in my room more on this side than on this side. So just think about things like that. But remember, it doesn't have to be perfect. This is a virtual congregation, and what we want is, while we want to be able to see you and hear you, don't worry too much. The other thing just to think about is what you're wearing. So I've chosen a top that is quite plain. Feel free to wear a Christmas style t-shirt or top. Please no hats or reindeer antlers or anything like that, just because we want it to look like a church congregation. And just think about slogans. Lots of our cameras will flip words. So if there are tops that have words on them, it will be quite distracting because the words will be backwards on the screen. So just think about little things like that. The other thing to say is lots and lots of stripes can really distort the image, so avoid those. What you'll see though is when you record it, you'll see that yourself. So think about what colours you'd like to wear, what you'd like to do, and yeah, just enjoy it as well. So At the beginning of each video, you'll see me and I will stand or sit there quietly and smiling. You'll hear 3 claps and I'd like you to clap with me. 1, 2, 3. At least for that last one. What that means is I can line up the videos really nicely so that I can hear everything that you're doing. If you're recording on your phone and you don't have, and you're going to be listening to one of the CDs, we ask you to turn the CD down so that you can hear it, but so you can just hear it enough to sing along to, because ideally we don't want to have that playing in the background. You don't want to hear my voice over and over and over again. If you're using headphones, ideally you're going to use wired headphones, so headphones with cords that plug in, but if you only have Bluetooth headphones, that's okay. It delays the editing a bit. It can be a bit tricky to edit with Bluetooth headphones because it creates a time lag, a bit like with Zoom. Then also just to think about how you hold your phone or your tablet. We'd prefer landscape, not portrait. This means you get the full picture like you're seeing it now. Otherwise, you end up with a portrait with 2 black rims, and that's quite tricky to edit with. So ideally, please have your tablet or your phone or whatever you're using to record yourself like this. The only other thing just to mention, my headphones have moved. If you're using wired headphones, some of them will have a microphone like this, if you see. What we just suggest is that you just think about the fact that that's a microphone, and either, if you're feeling very technical, choose another microphone, but just hold it slightly so that it's not rustling against hair or clothes. Have a go with it. So what I would suggest you do is do your first recording and have a go at seeing what it does. Does it create interference? If it's just lying flat, does it make your vocal sound really loud? Ideally, what we want to hear is just your voice, and it is a bit off-putting. You think, oh gosh, I sound a bit strange just by myself, one line without any accompaniment. That's okay. It's everybody's voices together sounds fantastic, and actually they blend beautifully when you edit them, but we need those individual voices to create that lovely big sound. When you're singing, if you're using headphones, try and only have one in. So if you've got little buds, just one and let the other one drop. If you're using these, I suggest that if you see my ears, you have one, like they do in the recording studios, one here on the left and then, or on the right, whichever way you prefer, and then one that doesn't cover your ear. This means that you stay in tune. You can hear the accompaniment, but you also can hear your own voice, and that's really important for recording. Like they say, that's what all of the top artists will do. And that means they can hear what they're singing to. It's really important to be able to hear yourself. So I think that's everything you need to know. At the end of each recording, we ask you to sit still for 10 seconds and continue smiling. This means that when we edit it all together, we get one nice final cut-off point for each carol, rather than people reaching in to turn it off at different times. You'll get me sit there and then I'll say, and turn that off, or something like that. Right, that's a very good example of my lovely Beatrice is here right now, and trying to find a time where perhaps you're on your own in the house, or and maybe the dog or the cat isn't nearby would be great. But again, it's a congregation, so if Beatrice ends up on my lap for some of these, she ends up on my lap for some of these. Enjoy it, keep smiling, and thank you so much again for taking part in our virtual choir.